What's good, everyone? It's your boy Mo Taicho coming back at it again with another video. So this week's video, we are talking about Sapiens, a brief history of humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. So today I got a little sister with me to help me out. Say hi. Say hi. So, let's get into it. Alright, so let's get into it. So us humans, we originated from East Africa about 2.5 million years ago, and we evolved from a species called Australopithecus. Australopithecus. Yeah, I'll put that in somewhere. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. So, us modern day humans in particular, which were known to be Homo sapiens, right? We actually evolved into Homo sapiens about 300,000 years ago, right? And there are about, I believe there are two theories as to why Homo sapiens ended up dominating the other species, right? So one is interbreeding. So the interbreeding theory essentially says we interbred with other species, and as time went on, we slowly, our DNA slowly started to take over the other species, right? And then there's the second one is replacement theory. So replacement theory outright says that Homo sapiens edged other species out just due to our advancement in tools and our survival tactics. So at the end of the day, the biggest thing that gave us Homo sapiens our biggest advantage was our brains, that cognitive power, or as in the book they like to call it, the cognitive revolution. So around about 70,000 years ago, that's when the human mind started to that's when it took drastic changes in development. So as our brains started to develop and improve and get refined, we started to see an improvement in tools that we use became more advanced. Techniques that we used to hunt also became more advanced. So all of this, thanks to the cognitive revolution, allowed us to be able to locate food and resources in the harshest of environments much better and more effectively than our rivals. Then came the aspect of language, right? So a lot of people believe that language, Homo sapiens developing the skill of language and communicating with one another, was probably the most dominant factor as to why Homo sapiens now dominate and opposed to other species, right? Essentially, language allows the flow of information and knowledge from one member of a community to another member, right? So this essentially allowed people to share information about food, resources, predators, and untrustworthy members in the communities. And a lot of people believe that because of this communication between the community, this is what allowed the Homo sapiens to be able to survive and work together much more better and efficiently than other. And then was the aspect of agricultural revolution. So this was essentially when Homo sapiens, humans, went from foragers to farmers, and this took place about, I want to say, about 12,000 years ago, right? And this, at first, a lot of historians were talking about how it was difficult for them to see why Homo sapiens chose the agricultural route as opposed to the forager route, because the main premise was behind this was because foragers would only go out foraging for about 4 hours in a day, but then when it came to farming, you'd be farming from dawn all the way to dusk, right? But a counter argument to this would be the farming was far more efficient than foraging. A farmer could have a big patch of land and then set up all sorts of crops, and those crops alone would be able to feed and nourish a huge population. And then you got dash money in that writing aspect, right? So as civilization started to grow and expand, people started to barter, to exchange goods for one another. So for example, let's say you had a pig and I had some rice, right? So if I wanted your pig, I will barter or offer something that I have, in this example, my rice, and I give you my rice at a certain amount of rice to receive a certain amount of pigs, right? But the problem with that system, as later on it became inefficient, because let's say now I have a range of things and I wanted to get something from your range or catalog of things. If I didn't have anything that you wanted, then there would be no possible way for me to get whatever I wanted. And then there came the aspect of writing. So this was brought to us by the ancient Mesopotamians. So essentially wherever there was a transaction that took place, the ancient Mesopotamians used to just write the specific transaction down on a clay tablet, right? And then later on, after that, after the bartering system proved to be too inefficient, what's called as barley money was used as a standardized exchange for money. And as these societies started to grow, there had to be a certain force in order to prevent people from doing the wrong things. Enter laws. So laws started to be put in place to dictate and tell people what was deemed as correct and what was deemed as incorrect. And with the advent of these laws, this gave birth to the first hierarchical societies, and as a result of that, kings and rulers emerged. And these kings and rulers, they ruled over everyone. So these kings and emperors, they needed people to obey these laws. And the way that they did this was through religion. So what these kings did was they proclaimed that they were given power by God, and because of this is why people had to obey. This can be seen perfectly by King Hammurabi. So King Hammurabi was a king of ancient Mesopotamia. So he proclaimed that he was given his power and his kinghood via the powers of God, and because of this, people had to obey him. So post-religious revolution came the scientific revolution, i.e. the age of enlightenment, is what people like to call it. So around the 16th, 17th century. So at the time, people had more faith in God than they had in themselves. But then the advent of this scientific revolution, people started to place more faith in themselves, kind of more an internal faith as opposed to an external faith, right? And this is where more empathetic or more emotional based reasoning was swapped out with logic based reasoning. And you could see there were a lot of philosophers and scientists that came out of this revolution, like Rene Descartes was one, and Sir Isaac Newton was also one during this revolution. And the thing with the scientific revolution was that it was also good for economies. So there were because one aspect of this scientific revolution was that it inspired a a genuine curiosity inside of people, which led them to go on to explore new territories. An example of this would be the Brits. So the Brits, they sent out James Cook to explore the New Zealand and Australia area, and after he came back, he was rewarded with a lot of gold and silver and all that. So they were provided with incentives to help, you know, I guess, grow empires. Then as these explorers started to go explore other corners of the world, this led to obviously cultures of the people that were sent out by the explorers would be pushed to the places that were discovered, i.e. imperialism. So around the 19th century, the British Empire had their fingers in a large majority of different countries around the globe, right? And because of this cultural imperialism, their culture was shoved down the throats of all the territories they had conquered. And one of the aspects of their culture was to do with money, the value placed on money. And this, you could say, would be the start of where capitalism began. Not just the British, but a large majority of Europeans that imposed their culture on different territories. They also imposed the idea of money and material. So because of this imposing idea of capitalism and imperialism, this saw the crumbling of many global cultures, including religion. And this was a result of three things. One was power, two was the reach of capitalism, and three was science. So where are we going as a species? What is the future of Homo sapiens? So thanks to advances in science and technology, we've made large strides in things such as anti-aging and bionics, right? So a few examples of these would be, there was I believe let me just look at my notes real quick. What was his name? Jesse Sullivan. So Jesse Sullivan was an American electrician, right? And by some freakish accident, he had lost both of his arms. And thanks to advancements in technology, he was given two bionic arms that he can operate through his mind and nervous system. And then there's anti-aging experiment that's currently being conducted by many scientists, and right now are being used as mice. So who knows? In the future, we might have a real life Lazarus pit. Okay, I guess Lazarus pit would be more bringing people back from the dead. So let's say a Lazarus pit for anti-aging. You just jump in. I guess a fountain of youth would be more accurate. You take a little sip from the fountain, you are forever young. And yeah, I mean, with people like Elon Musk as well, the way he's making strides in technology and science, who knows, we could be half human and half machine someday. Made it to the end. I thank you. I appreciate you. I am grateful to you. And if you got any value out of this, make sure to hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, or click that notifications bell. Until the next video, everyone. Thank you.